A Monday, a brand new week, and you're welcome to it. The look at finances and the markets and business in general, brought to you by Capital Legacy, your number one in wills and estate management. And as usual, we're joined by Chris Gibbons, who takes a look at all the business stories. Chris, morning to you. The top story at the moment is surely got to be Transnet's ports getting back to normal after about 6 days after that ransomware attack.
Jeremy, a very good morning to you. Yes, absolutely. Hard on the heels, of course, of that rioting and looting, most of which took place in KZN as well. That also closed the port of Durban, so just what the economy did not need. In this case, several ports as well as Durban were hit. Ngqura, Gqeberha, Cape Town, Richards Bay as well, ostensibly by this criminal hacker group, ransomware group, calling itself Death Kitty, apparently from Eastern Europe or from Russia. What we don't know is whether or not a ransom was asked for. We assume so, and whether one was paid. Transnet is not letting us know the answer to that question. But it does seem that the Navis system, which handles all the container traffic, is back up and running. The problem now, there's a massive backlog of containers and there's a shortage of cold storage. The problem is long-term, though. South Africa's ports already infamous for being very expensive and very inefficient. And the likelihood now is that a lot of shippers will simply go somewhere else, somewhere like Maputo or head up to Namibia, maybe even further up the east coast, up to somewhere like Dar es Salaam. Back to back with the rioting and with the looting, it's as if we are actively trying to shoot ourselves in the foot economically. We risk our status as a gateway to Africa. Don't forget that Durban alone is responsible for over 50% of our imports and exports.
A big week as well, but in the wrong sense for Chinese tech stocks, including the one that we watch fairly closely for obvious reasons, Tencent.
Tencent, indeed, the major investment of Naspers and its Amsterdam-listed subsidiary Prosus, both of which suffered a series of sharp falls during the week, although they came back somewhat on Thursday. All of this part of a much broader crackdown by the Chinese authority, Chinese government, on China's tech superstars, especially Tencent. And this is seen, we understand, no one's saying so officially, we understand that Beijing believes that the tech superstars are simply getting too big for their boots. So this is the Chinese Communist Party cracking the whip, knocking some heads together and getting them back in line. Tencent was down 23% after raising $170 billion in market cap. And that obviously affected Naspers and Prosus very badly as well. Not alone though, Alibaba, Meituan, Pinduoduo, and a slew of others all feeling the pain. Prosus, through which Naspers holds its interest in Tencent, lost $26.5 billion. Ouch. Will it come back, Tencent? Well, Bloomberg reports that of the 68 analysts who have a rating on Tencent, 62 still recommend it as a buy. The average target price, 736 Hong Kong dollars, representing a 65% premium over the midweek close of 447 Hong Kong dollars.
Come back to South Africa. I see Discovery Life is taking aim at members who are refusing to take the COVID vaccine.
Quite right too, in my personal opinion. Discovery is going to charge a higher premium for unvaccinated members, placing them in the same category as they would a smoker. A statement from the company says COVID clearly affects mortality rates, and a refusal to be vaccinated will be treated in the same way as a lifestyle disease like smoking or diabetes. At special risk, people in their mid-40s with an unvaccinated person in that age group 10 times more likely to die than someone who has had a vaccine. Another part of the problem, of course, not just death, but also the development of chronic diseases among survivors, so-called long COVID.
Do you think it's, I know you don't usually get personal opinions flying around here, but do you think that at some stage government is going to step in and maybe start insisting that people get the COVID vaccination?
Jeremy, it's always difficult to enforce, and whether or not it would stand up to constitutional scrutiny remains to be seen. What we do have, though, is a health and safety directive from the Department of Employment and Labour, which is very clear that employers are permitted to implement a mandatory workplace vaccination policy. It is hedged around with all sorts of ifs, buts, and maybes, including the right of an employee to refuse to be vaccinated. But I can see it becoming a very powerful tool, especially if it's backed by the trade unions in that particular workplace. We do have something of a mixed message coming from the Human Rights Commission, which is saying if you feel that you're being forced to vaccinate, please talk to the Human Rights Commission. They're not in favor of forced vaccination. But don't forget this. This is a notifiable disease. It's not something that you do voluntarily. It is a notifiable disease because it is so contagious. So your refusal to get vaccinated, if that's the choice you make, is also something that affects me and the people around me as well. So you asked for a personal opinion. Yes, I think it should be mandated, and I think it should be enforced by the government.
Look, speaking of COVID, we've got to doff our hats to this particular person. I was very sad to wake up on Saturday morning and see the news that we lost another really top and really influential business leader to the disease.
Absolutely. You're talking about 63-year-old Dr. Johan van Zyl, executive chairperson of Toyota South Africa Motors. Former CEO of Toyota South Africa, van Zyl went on to become CEO of Toyota in Africa as a whole, and then CEO of Toyota Motor Europe until his retirement earlier this year. Absolute stalwart, not just of Toyota, but also South Africa's motor industry more broadly. Tributes have been flowing in all weekend, and our condolences to his family.
One slice of good news, Chris, Capitec to add 300 jobs. Is this part of the mercantile deal that they've just done?
It could be to do with that, but I think it's more just general optimism from Capitec. Big recruitment drive, as you say. 300 new posts, mainly in the fourth industrial revolution space. So business science, artificial intelligence, data engineers, computer analysts, and so on. Capitec CEO Gerrie Fourie says the country, South Africa, offers ample opportunities. And he uses Switzerland as an analogy, interestingly enough. That, he says, is a perfectly running economy, which might sound like a dream, but it just doesn't have the magnitude of opportunities presented by challenge-ridden South Africa. Glass half full, glass half empty, very much half full for Capitec's CEO, I think. Fourie doesn't underestimate the magnitude of those challenges, particularly the education system, which he says needs a massive overhaul. But to get around that, Capitec is doing its own training. Simple as that.
And I believe you've got another bit of good news as well, Chris.
Yeah, Jeremy, this is on the tail of a small local company called CIRT, C-I-R-T, which stands for Consumption Information Real Time, and which has just done a major deal with one of the world's very biggest players, Microsoft. And we're joined now by CIRT Director and co-founder, AJ Lalu. AJ, good morning to you. Welcome. Tell me, first of all, what CIRT does.
Good morning, Chris, and good morning to your listeners, Jeremy, to you as well. So CIRT is a Internet of Things and data insights business, and we provide large corporations, particularly the likes of AB InBev and so forth, with IoT devices that give them insights into what's happening with their cooler fleet, for example, or retailers with our QHOP solution, unique data insights that they would have never had before.
And this deal with Microsoft, what does that entail? How difficult was it to do business with a company like Microsoft?
So, Chris, I'm still pinching myself in disbelief, right? That a startup, a 3-year-old startup from the southern tip of Africa, has been courted by a $2 trillion company called Microsoft, right? It wasn't an easy transaction to conclude. We signed a global strategic alliance. As a consequence, I think, of two things. One, we have really innovative solutions that we've developed, and we caught the eye of the right team in Microsoft Corporation in the US. We were the first African company to showcase a solution at IoT Solutions World Congress in Barcelona. Microsoft were in the audience, and because we deployed it with AB InBev, one of their top customers, they were quite interested to understand what we were doing and how we were doing it. And once they found out we had built it on their tech stack, they were then very keen to engage with us.
Sounds absolutely brilliant. So where from here for CIRT?
So we recently, or in hard lockdown, entirely virtually developed a solution called QHOP. QOP is a contactless, cashless retail checkout experience. And we're about to deploy the solution in the Middle East as we speak. So, it's walk into a store, open up a mobile app on your phone, scan the barcodes of the items you want to buy. We use advanced AI algorithms to validate what you bought. And then you pay using any digital payment platform. And then you simply pack your goods and leave the store. So that's an innovative solution that we're now taking to market globally.
Sounds absolutely brilliant. And there we're going to leave it. We're out of time. Jeremy, I fancy one of those contactless payment goedertjies AJ was talking about. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. But nice to see South African firms, especially small firms, because this is where your new development comes from and your job creation comes from. Small South African firms getting involved in world-leading innovations. Congratulations, AJ. Very well done.
Thanks, Jeremy.
And Christopher, we'll do the same thing at the same time next week.
Look forward to it. Have a good week, Jeremy. Cheers now.
Bye-bye. Your business and finance brought to you by Capital Legacy right here on Mansfield Today. If you do like the show, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and we'll be back with tomorrow's insert, which will be the legal one with Advocate Lance Brogden. Until then, cheery bye.